So, it's been a long time that I've been thinking about doing this, but kind of got the idea to give it a go by my friend Brian C. So, I'm gonna do try to do some simple coil building videos aimed towards a newbie, of course, for the Vaping Newbies webpage. Going to try to show people that wrapping coils really isn't that difficult, and some simple little tricks and tips that I've learned along the way might even help some other people out. So who knows? We're going to give it a go. So keep in mind, I've never done anything like this before, so my camera work might not be too good. But yeah, gonna give it a try. Why the heck not, right? So some simple stuff that you're gonna need for rebuilding is atomizer. Today I'm going to use the Cloud Chasers Ink Archon. It's a simple 3-post atomizer with tough O-rings. 3-post Addy, which I figured was just a simple place to start. Doesn't matter what atomizer you're using. Anything that I'm going to show you in here could relate to any simple 3-post atomizer. So, doesn't really matter the Addy, but yeah, so that's my atomizer. Comes highly recommended by me, by the way. So, single most important thing that anybody who wants to coil build is going to need is an ohm reader. Simple ohm reader. These things aren't too expensive. Usually I pick them up for around 20 bucks Canadian. You can use these as your build stand as well. But apparently I pull too hard on my coils and stuff, so I actually wrecked a handful of these already. So if you've got gentle hands, then go ahead and build on one of these. But I had one of these made by a friend, a simple atomizer stand. My atomizer base just screws right in like that, pretty good. But yeah, but you don't need one of these. You can use your mod, use your ohm reader, whichever. So simple pair of tweezers, nothing special. Simple pair of scissors, nothing special. These little screwdrivers that you get from the dollar store. I'm gonna have to check. This is the one that I normally use, but I'm gonna have to check on the size for that, because you can use drill bits or anything else. It just has to be round. I like these because of the base on them. And I've just gotten used to being able to wrap on these. They work very well. So, and they're super cheap and readily available. Some wire cutters, some flat toothless pliers I use for pulling on my wires. Again, all of these things are very cheap. And of course, the star of the show, little coil of wire. This is 24 gauge Canthal I'm going to be using today. But again, a lot of the stuff I'm going to show you can just be switched around and add some more wraps or less wraps depending on your gauge of wire. So yeah, so there we go. Intro done, I guess. Am I stumbling too much yet? Yeah, so let's do this. Okay, so let's get started. This is 2 pre-cut lengths of my 24 gauge Canthal. I'm going to aim for about, we'll say 6 wraps. I'm aiming for around a 0.2 ohm, 0.2 ohm dual coil. So I'm going to wrap on this screwdriver right here, which is the equivalent of a 7/64 drill bit. So again, it really, I recommend that if you're starting out, you get one gauge of wire and kind of stick with that, and kind of wrap around different sized bits or tools or whatever it is that you're using, just to kind of get the feeling for how one gauge of wire is going to react to a different amount of wraps, a different width of rod that you're wrapping on. That's what I did when I started. And when I started, I believe I started with 26 gauge. I just went with the 24 for this because I thought it was a little bit thicker and it would show up a bit better. So here's our wire. I'm going to try to straighten it out as best as I can. It doesn't really matter. It's not too important. Once you start wrapping it, it's going to kind of hold its form. So I'm going to pinch my wire, and I always wrap backwards over my rod this way. So I'm going to pinch my wire down here with my hands, kind of try to hold it as straight as I can, holding the wire up like this, and just pull it down. Try to get one good wrap in, and then keep going. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pull it tight, and then this is where our toothless pliers come in handy. What I like to do is kind of pinch the coil up at the top and give it a good yank, just to make sure that those coils are nice and tight. And same the other way. You want your coil leads to be coming off pretty close to straight like this. You know, again, it's wire, it's pretty easy to work with. So yeah, and of course for the purpose of this video, my leads are a lot longer than I normally would, but that can be fixed later on. Heck, I can even fix it right now. Grab my wire clippers, and you want to have one lead longer than the other. I find is easier for mounting it into your RDA. But yeah, there we go. First coil out of the way. Now we're just simply going to do that whole thing all over again. See, one of those wraps came off a little bit, and if you end up with some spaces in there, in between your coils, it's no big deal. You can always go back and fix that stuff later. So I like to take it and kind of swish it against the butt of the screwdriver a bit there. Is this thing going to focus at all? I don't know. It's an iPhone. Good stuff. So again, I'm going to clip my leads. Want one longer than the other. Not by a lot, you know, there you go. Yeah, so there we go. 6 wraps, 24 gauge, coil number 2. And clean up a bit. Usually I get a little bit scattered when I'm wrapping coils, and that's okay. Again, here's my my coil stand, or my atomizer stand, which is great because of this little well in it. I can drop my coils right there, no big deal. And yeah, let's see if I can raise this up a little bit. So with your coil, you're gonna have one lead that comes over the top of the coil. Let's see if I can do this. It comes over the top of the coil, and one that comes from underneath the coil. Of course, you're going to be mounting it horizontally in your atomizer, but see if you can see this, kind of like that, right? So one's coming from the bottom, one's coming from the top. What I like to do is, with the coil that's coming from over the top, I like to mount that towards the outside of my atomizer, which I find just for wicking purposes makes it a heck of a lot easier to work with, because that side's going to be closest to the outside wall. So when it comes time to wick, it's easier to feed your wick down into the base. So simple little trick that I learned. A lot of the atomizers have the like this one, for instance, has the center post. The hole is raised higher, which would lead you to believe that you should put the coil coming out from the top into there. But again, just personal preference, and again for ease of wicking, I just like to do it ass backwards, because that's just how I roll. So I'm going to feed these through. I'm not going to tighten anything off quite yet. There we go. Turn it around. Another little trick that I like to do is just when you're feeding it through the center post, try not to have them overlap. They're going to try to, your leads are going to try to kind of cross over each other. If you really just want them to have them going straight through that hole side by side, so that when you tighten down that screw, it's going to make a good connection and do everything, not get bunged up and make a mess of things at all. So yeah. So I'm going to take a look at my coils, and wow, this really kind of sucks. Focus, focus, focus. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to look at my coils and just kind of try to space them as evenly as possible. So I like to leave a little bit of space between the coil and the post, just for centering the coil a little bit afterwards. Give yourself a little bit of room to play with, but you want them to be even from side to side, otherwise they won't heat evenly. So and at this point they're kind of sitting, my coils are sitting on a big angle and stuff like that. It's all a-okay, no problems. So there you go. It's going to look like that. It's kind of symmetrical. It looks kind of cool. But yeah, so next we are going to get our screwdriver. Double check, make sure everything's nice and even. I'm going to start with the negative posts and just tighten those down just until they're snug. You might want to hold your thumb on the coil, because as you tighten down the leads, it might try to go a little bit wonky, and that's okay. Nothing here can't be undone. So that one moved on me a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to go and tighten our center. There we go. And again, I'm not wrenching all these down super tight. I'm just making them, tight enough for now. Again, there's, you can go through and fix everything up afterwards. Now, I used to use these wire cutters, and they worked fine. They worked great, but I ended up getting myself a pair of these flush mount or flush wire cutters, and these things are absolutely wonderful. Again, not necessary. If you just have a regular standard pair of wire clippers, they'll work just fine. But these flush ones work just absolutely amazing. So I'm going to clip these. There's one. And what I do is push that center lead off to the side, so that, because you got to be careful not to clip the lead of the coil that's in the other side. And there we go. And then this side. And this side. Okay. Now, remember to use your original rod that you wrapped on. You hear some footsteps in the background. That's my little guy just wandering around trying to figure out why Daddy's talking to himself. That's okay. That's okay. So again, our coils are on one heck of a slant and kind of cockeyed all over the place. That's okay. I'm going to stick my rod in through the top and just start to center these guys. No big deal. Center them. There we go. And this one. Center it. There we go. And then what I like to do, and what's good with these screwdrivers with their base on them like that, is I'll hold them, put it through from the negative side towards the center, and just give it a good push and try to center these coils a bit. Try to center them, making sure they're nice and flat, level, even, however you want to say it. Then go over to your other side, and the same thing. I'm kind of raising these coils up a bit, and then push towards the center. There we go. Okay, sorry I had a bit of an interruption there, but anyways, so we're still just playing with our coils, trying to make them nice and even with one another. Really, a large part of that is going to depend on your airflow and where your airflow is going to hit those coils. So, trying to get more light in this room, and seems like maybe I've got too much. But, anyways, I like to have it the airflow kind of hit under the coils. Again, this with all of those airflow holes, which again, I don't, well, not again, but for the first time, I don't use all of these airflow holes. I usually just use the bottom 4. So I kind of just want to center those on the coils. You have a fair share of playing room for how much you can lift them up, how much you can move them around and stuff. So, and again, I just try to make sure they're nice and level, and level with one another as well. So I think one of the things that I didn't really notice when I watched a lot of coil building videos and stuff on YouTube was how important it is just to sit and play with your coils and just make sure that they're all nice and even and in the same spots, and you know, I mean, I can do it pretty quickly through practice and such, but you know, I think maybe a lot of the YouTube tutorials, people try to pretend like they're just coil building experts, and you know, I'm no coil building expert. I don't do Claptons. I don't do, you know, much beyond just twisted wires and things like that. But again, for this, I'm just gonna try simple, easy builds. So let's see if we can show what this one looks like. Okay, so we got all of our coils are the same height. And they're both pretty much level with one another. And see, this coil's kind of started to space itself out a little bit, but again, that's okay. We can fix all that. So now I'm gonna check it on my ohm reader. Take a vape. Lovely, lovely. So my ohm reader. Lots of different ways people use their ohm readers. I like to turn mine on first. Start screwing it down and see where we're at. Okay, so that's a 1.8. I was aiming for a 0.2, so you know what? That's really not too bad at this point. I'll leave it on there and make sure that if it starts, your number starts jumping around up and down or anything like that, you know, it could just be that you're right in between, say in this instance a 0.18 and a 0.17. If it's jumping between that, then usually you're okay. But if it's jumping quite high, you know, going all over the place from a 0.25 to a 0.15, or you know, kind of jumping around like that, then that means that something's not connected right. You got to give it a check over and make sure everything's nice and tight. And sometimes what happens is when you're tightening down these leads or these post screws, you might end up, some atomizers are bad for actually cutting your wire, which I had a dime for every time I had to redo a build because of that. So this has gone down to a 0.17. So you know, to build this a little bit higher, what I would have done is instead of going with 6 wraps, maybe going with 7. I use all safe batteries and you know, proper batteries, and make sure that there's no shorts on anything. A lot of times what I find is when I fire this, which we'll do in a moment, when I fire this, it's going to actually end up raising this number a little bit. So again, I'm hoping for a 0.2. So we might still get there, folks. Might still get there. So at this point, I'm going to take it off because I can tell that it's not jumping around and it's not bouncing at all. So I don't have any shorts or anything of the sort. So I'm going to pull out the mechanical mod. It has a freshly charged Samsung 25R battery, which is a 25 amp battery. Always use safe batteries, always use safe batteries. You always hear that in any videos, any forums that you go on, and there's a darn good reason for that. Use safe batteries, folks. Can't be stressed enough. So I'll screw this on here. I'm going to grab my tweezers, and a big magnet in this is my FU Manhattan clone, but it has a big huge magnet in the bottom of it, which is helpful for picking up tools and sometimes for picking up stray little bits of wire too. So anyways, so I'm going to give this a couple of pulses, and what we're looking for, you can see how the one wire is not heating very evenly, and this coil on this side is kind of heating a bit slower than the other one. So I'm just going to take my tweezers and fire it, heat it up, take my finger off the button without any power going to it. I'm going to give these a squeeze, tighten those coils up, and then when you fire it again, it's going to heat up slower because you've taken the heat out of it with your tweezers, but you know, that's okay. So these look to be firing pretty good. Try to get some focus on there. Look at those, and you can see I want it heating from the center of the coil going out towards the edges. So and I want them both to be heating evenly between coil to coil. So, and those seem to be working quite the treat. Look at that. Oh, nice. Okay, and again, I'm only quickly pulsing this. When you don't have any coil or any cotton or juice in here, what's going to happen is you're drawing more power because it's just getting up to the maximum heat right away. So just quick finger on the button, let go. Finger on the button, heat them up, let go. That's it. I'm not going to push down on that button and hold down on there because it's going to draw too much power from the battery. So now that I'm happy with how my coils are firing, and boy, I'm quite happy with that, let me tell you. I'm just going to double check and make sure everything's still where I want it, nice and Nice and even Steven. It's all looking good. And then, careful not to burn your fingers. Done that a time or two. You end up with this neat coil-shaped singe mark on your skin. Well then, I'm going to throw it back on the ohm reader here. See where we ended up. See? Oh, look at that. What did I say, folks? What did I say? 0.2? I think I said that, didn't I? Oh, perfect. Like I've done this before. Oh, back up to 0.2. Come on now. That's okay. We'll deal with that. Pretty darn good. Okay, so now on to wicking. So lately, I've been using this stuff, cotton bacon V1. As well have Shadows cotton, which are the sheets. Or another thing that I tend to use is just the Shiseido pads. Shiseido, I don't know how to say that. Just really gives me an excuse to go into the beauty department at my local grocery or local pharmacy. This stuff comes in these strips like this. I don't know who's ever eaten bacon that looks like that. Not me, but anyways, so I just find this stuff's really easy to work with. You know, I find that the break-in time, which is how long it takes to kind of just go from tasting a little bit off to just tasting like your juice and like it's supposed to. So I break off what I think is a decent sized piece. Again, I'm thinking that one's a little bit fat, so I'm gonna tear a little bit off, and you see how it all tears in one strip like that. It's perfect. Like I said, I love using that stuff, this stuff. So clear my stuff out here. So then what I do, I'm gonna put it on. I always use this this microfiber cloth thing that tends to pick up dog hair, pardon me. But I tend to keep this in my my vaping toolbox, which is this thing that you see here. So I'm going to put it on my cloth, and I'm just going to gently roll it towards me. Gently roll it. I'm not going to do it too tight because I don't want to squish it at all. I don't want to compress the fibers at all, but I'm kind of making it nice and roundish. And when I've got it at that point, I'm going to clip right in the middle, 2 wicks, 1 piece. The reason I like this stuff so much is, unlike the cotton pads, I know that I'm getting the same size between both of my wicks. They're going to be uniform, going to be the same amount. So I'm going to take those, put one back there. I'm going to twist up one end. Twist it up. This is the point when you'll realize, oh, I just washed my hands, I just did the dishes, everything seems all nice and clean, but nothing tells you how dirty your hands are like white cotton. So, there we go, I've got both of them twisted up. I'm gonna feed one through there. Grab my tweezers. I'm just gonna pull on it a wee bit. Oh. Pull it through. I want it to be tight, but not too tight. Now I'm gonna kind of see me pulling it back and forth like that is just fluffing up the cotton on either side of that coil. And then I'm going to switch around and do the other side. I'm not going to cut the cotton yet. Same thing on this side. I might not need my tweezers. Nope. Pull it through. Same thing. A little bit of the old back and forth, back and forth. Okay. I'm sorry, folks, if this is really bad quality, I don't know, but you know, I'm doing my best here. So because of this atomizer, the coil's way up here, but the bottom of my juice well actually goes all the way down to the bottom here. So that stops just about where that black O-ring is. So when I put my cotton in, I'm going to want it to at least touch the bottom, and then want it to kind of fold over a little bit in there as well. So I'm going to cut it right about there. Need some new scissors, pardon me. And again, I just like symmetry, so I'm going to cut them pretty much the same size on both sides. Same thing here. And over here. There we go. So, and when I'm ready to feed my wicks in, I'm going to kind of curl it. So I want this side to go in and down to the bottom, and this side as well to go in and down to the bottom. Kind of tuck it in down there. You don't want too much cotton, because I want to be able to have space here under the coil, so that I get more air hitting that coil. Is going to give you more vapor, more flavor, you know. But you can see you still have a fair share in there. So same thing, other side. I'm just going to kind of fold it over, tuck the bottom down in there. There we go. Same thing over here. Tuck it in, tuck it down. So there we go. Now, pretty much all we're going to do is juice it up, vape on it, and see how it reacts. So, again, I'm going to throw some juice on here, make sure all the cotton is nice and wet. This atomizer has an incredibly deep juice well, so I can just pour a bunch of juice down in there, no worries. It's going to get all sucked and fed up in there. You just want to make sure that you're getting the coils, because if the cotton in there is dry and you fire it, you're going to burn that cotton, and you're not going to be able to get rid of that taste unless you re-wick it all over again. So another quick little safety point that I didn't touch on is this barrel. This one's stiff, I just washed it out. So anyways, this barrel, you want to make sure that it's not touching anything when you put it on. You don't want it touching those coils, or you're going to create a short. So again, I'm just going to throw everything together as it's ready to be vaped. I'm going to throw it on my ohm reader again, just to double check. These things, it's always best to err on the side of caution. So again, I'm just going to put it on there, make sure everything's a-okay. So I lost my 0.2, it went down to a 0.1, and that's okay for me. Again, you know, things I could have done to bring this ohm or resistance reading up would be throw another wrap or two in there, or use a lower gauge of wire. Instead of 24, use a 26. You know, but again, I'm happy with this, and I think as it fires, it'll probably raise up a little bit. So again, I'm gonna throw this on my grungy dirty mechanical mod, give it a fire, and we got vapors. So there we go. All right, folks, so there we go again. 2-ish ohm build on the Archon RDA. Again, I'm firing this on my FU Manhattan mechanical clone, but this will work. It's a good build. It'll work great on a regulated mod, an unregulated box mod, whichever you want. I'm dripping some West Coast Clouds Nebula. This stuff is absolutely wonderful. yeah, but here we go. Let's give it a vape. You still there? You still there? I'd say it's working. So I'm gonna go and try my hand at editing on top of trying to learn how to be a videographer. I'm gonna go and try to learn how to be a video editor as well. So you know, thanks for bearing with me. I hope I was able to help some people. Anybody ever needs a hand with anything, you know where to find me on the Vaping Newbies page. This video is majoritively for my Vaping Newbies page, not mine, but our Vaping Newbies page. You know, which is just for reaching out and helping new vapors, and that's what I like doing. So, you know, I'm always here, always around. Anything I can do to help, and you know, hopefully you can help people. Hopefully this video finds some people in need of some direction, some help. Sorry if it was really crappy quality, but you know, maybe that'll get better with the next video, if there's a next video, if anybody wants to see it. So you know, there you go. Dual coil on a 3-post Addy, roundabouts 2 ohms, using 24 gauge dual coil, 6 wraps. Again, in hindsight, I probably should have gone with 7 wraps. Probably would have given me about 2.5, if not 3. So probably 2.5, I'm guessing. But yeah, so there we go, folks. Hope you enjoyed it.